make a cap for the top of Groot's head. As you can see, we need to cover this part of his head. So we're going to start again with our magic circle. We're going to crochet 6. It's 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And then you can go ahead and close up that magic circle. In the next round, we're going to increase in every stitch. So in our first stitch, we're going to just crochet twice in the same stitch. And we're going to repeat that all the way around for a total of 12 stitches. And you can see the difference here. We're still crocheting in the round like we were with the arm, but with the arm we did the same number of stitches, and so it formed this cup. We're going to make a flat top surface to cover the top of Groot's head, and so we're going to keep building around and increasing our stitches. So in the next round we're going to stitch 1 and then increase. We want a total of 18 stitches. Sometimes you might have to pull it apart to look and make sure that you're going into the same stitch for that second stitch. I'm going to go ahead and put in a yarn marker so I know where I need to end each round. Slide it in here. We're just going to continue increasing in the same manner. We stitch 1 and then increase. We want a total of 24. Remember, to increase, you're simply stitching 2 single crochets into each 1 single crochet. Okay, in the next row we continue on in the same manner. This time we single crochet 3. Just each stitch holds 1 single crochet, and then we're going to increase in the next 6. Continuing around, we're going to single crochet twice, double or single crochet 2 in the next, and then repeat that process. So 2 single crochets and then 2 in 1. And as you can see, we're remaining flat, and we're just growing bigger and bigger until we get to the size that we need for Groot's head. Depending on how you stitch, you may need to do more rounds than she recommends, or you may need to do fewer rounds than she recommends. So just keep testing your flat round piece on Groot's head until it's the size that you want. In the last round, she single crochets in 5 before she does an increase. But again, play around with it, whatever works for your Groot. The most important thing is that you're keeping the rounds flat. And again, an increase is just 2 single crochets in 1. As you can see, my Groot's head is looking pretty good. I'm going to finish this round out, and then I'm going to cut a very long piece at the end so that I can sew this to the top of Groot's head. And remember, our Groot is already stuffed, so we want to cover that stuffing. Okay, so I've rolled out a long piece. I'm going to cut it. It might be more than I need, and that's okay. And then I'm just going to pull it all the way through and do my tie off. And then I'm going to take off my paper clip. Take out my stitch marker. Pull that circle tight. Go ahead and stitch our beginning yarn back inside. I'm just going to cut up through a couple of stitches here to tie that off and hide it. I'm taking that long piece that I cut off, and I'm just going to use that to hand stitch the covering of Groot's head. So I'm just going to lay the head piece on here and just stitch through one crochet stitch on the head and one crochet stitch on the cover. We want it to sit inside the crown of his head. So when I get up here, I'm going to come in about 3 stitch rows down and insert my needle. Remember, you're using the same color of yarn, and so you're not going to see these attachment stitches. Now you can go in every stitch if you want, or you can skip a few stitches. It's really entirely up to you. If you go every stitch, it's going to be more secure. If your Groot is going to sit on the shelf, maybe you don't want to take that much time, and in which case you could just skip a couple of stitches as you're sewing around. Okay, now that we have Groot's head covered, we can go ahead and do the vine and the leaves. And then the last thing we'll do is attach the eyes and embroider his mouth. So we're getting very close to the end. So continuing with the color of your Groot, whatever color that might be, obviously I'm using white, you're just going to do a slip knot. We're making the vine, and you're going to make 2 of these, but you're just going to single crochet for 40 times in a straight line. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, and you're just going to leave a tail after your 40th stitch. So again, we slip stitch to create our first loop. We're going to chain 4, slip stitch in the second chain from the hook, and remember to slip stitch, we just wrap once and pull through. Then we're going to single crochet in the next stitch, slip stitch in that next one, and that creates our leaf, and we want to do that for 5 leaves. So again, we make our loop. Just has to be big enough to get your crochet hook through. Chain 4, slip stitch in the second chain from the hook, single crochet in the next stitch, slip stitch one last time, and cut it off and pull it through. So repeat that leaf 3 more times so that you have a total of 5. And then we'll go ahead and attach all of those elements to our group. We'll add the eyes and we'll be done. So I'm going to start with the little stick that we made. I'm going to attach that right up here to the side of his head. Just going to go in like that. Stitch it on just like we've stitched everything else on. Got that cute little stick happening right up there. It doesn't have to be too perfect because it's a stick, but you do want it on there secure. So I'll take a couple of stitches here. Make sure that I've got that tail, that last piece. We're going to tuck that inside. And I did not leave mine very long, so I'll show you a tip as to how to get that end inside if you cut yours short. Okay, nicely attached. Going to go ahead and cut that where you can't see it. And then I'm going to take my crochet hook. I'm just going to come in here like this, grab that tail that was too short to sew, and pull it right through with my crochet hook. Getting a little bit of Groot stuffing through here, but it's okay. My main purpose is to hide the tail. So once I get that in there, then I can go ahead and clip that end. Okay. And we have Groot, we have the little sticks, and then we're going to take one of our leaves. Thread your needle with the end of the leaf, the end that you left long. So you have your little needle, or you have your leaf there. We're just going to attach that leaf right inside of the stick. And I am going to do this really quick and easy. I'm going to go ahead and I've got it on there. I'm going to make a little knot in the back so I know it'll be on there securely. And then I'll go ahead and grab the tail of the leaf and pull it through. By doing that, it also just secures that leaf to his head and kind of holds the stick in place. Now this one's still long enough I can weave it in with my needle. You can certainly do that any way you want, but I think that looks like my needle or my leaf is attached. I'm going to go ahead and clip these off. Kind of tuck them back in there and go ahead with my second leaf because she has two leaves attached to the stick on top. So again, taking the long end of my leaf and attaching. Now, no doubt about it, you are going to see some of the green in the background. But most important is that you're going to get it secure. You don't want that little leaf coming off. And I feel like the most secure way to do that is to simply tie it in a knot back there. And then you can just work this leaf end back into his head. A couple of stitches in there. Good. Okay, we have just a couple more leaves to put on. So we can go ahead and take our vine, and looking at the picture, it looks like the vine wraps from left to right and down and around his leg. Let's see, almost looks like it goes around this leg and then ties off. So you're going to want to thread your needle with the long end. And I think I would sew the bottom piece first so that you take the length. You have a lot that you can wrap and hide in the back. So maybe take and sew the vine onto the foot where you want it as the first step. And then just tie that off. It's going to be a quick and easy way to sew that on. And then come to the back. And I'm going to take my crochet hook again. I'm going to come into one of my looser stitches and grab this piece and just hide it inside his body. Might have to do that a couple of times. Again, that's the beauty of using the same color of yarn for his body and the vine. You can just kind of hide this in here. One more stitch for me ought to do it. And if you left a long tail, you can certainly use your needle and sew that on. Okay, so we have one vine in place. Now we take our next vine. And it looks like she's wrapping from the same direction, but this time going around the opposite foot. So again, I have a long tail right here, and I can thread my needle with that tail. Just come in here and stitch it onto his foot where I want it. Now I actually did leave a long enough tail here to use my needle and secure that second vine. Take a couple stitches here if you want. Make sure that's not going to fall off. Clip it tight. The last thing we have to do is put on a couple of more leaves, which we've already made. And again, we just take our long end. I feel like I'm totally repeating my directions, so I apologize because I know you've caught on much quicker and I don't have to keep repeating myself. I'm just going to stitch this onto the vine where I think it'll look fun. And since this is going to be very vibrant against my white, I want to bury it deep within the stuffing and clip it off. Depending on the colors that you're using, you might not have that challenge. And again, this is not very long, so I might be able to try. We'll try it with the needle. The needle does make it go a little bit easier. So if I can get it in there, great. plenty long. Bury it deep in the stuffing. I want to take a couple of stitches to secure it tightly. Right up here on this vine. I have a nice long needle so it can go a long ways into his body there and hide that. And then our very last leaf, turn our little Groot over. We'll secure this leaf right to the back where we wrap that vine around. Since the vine is a little loose because I only secured it at the ends, I'm taking a stitch through the vine and through the body. So it just makes it a little more solid. All right, now we're ready to put the final touches on with the eyes and the mouth. So the first thing we're going to do is take our eyes. I have the kind that you can lock in place, and I'll put a link below so that you can get those if you don't have them. And our weave should be loose enough that we can just pop these in. Otherwise, they could have gone in sooner before you stuffed the head if you wanted. But that works. I think I can just put those in place right there. I should be able to slide this right in. It would be easier, honestly, if you had done the eyes earlier. Now that I'm seeing the problem here. I don't know why she didn't mention that. Okay, snap that one on. Get this one in place. I can go through one of my larger weaves, push it through there. Get this one snapped on. Now, if you don't want to purchase the eyes or you don't have eyes on hand, you can certainly embroider those with some black yarn, just like we're going to do for his mouth. So I have his eyes in place. I'm going to go ahead and thread my needle with black yarn. I'm just going to come in here and stitch a little mouth in place. I'm just going to back stitch that first one and just kind of loop it through another. You can do any kind of a stitch you want here, whatever works for you. I think this is going to pull it nicely together. it right back here and meet that one and pull it out over here. So that piece of his mouth is in there very tightly. Clip that end and clip my first end. And again, just weave it back in. And then clip it off. Now that Groot is finished, I have a couple of other projects going on in my sewing room. One is this table runner that I'm making. I've got it on the quilting machine right now. For our next video though, we are going to do an applique collage for Halloween. I hope to see you next time on Crafting with Nana. Bye!